You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
Welcome to Happiness Ninja Down Under with your host, Jamie Rose. Jamie will educate and empower people, organizations, and communities to help us all make better health and well-being choices. She will also engage you with expert influencers from around the world. So now, please welcome the host of Happiness Ninja Down Under, Jamie Rose.
Welcome to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Jamie Rose, host of this series, and you are listening to Bold Brave TV, coming to you live from New York City again. I had a little bit of an illness again last week, so I'm back raring to go with another awesome guest from around the world. This time we have the amazing Trudy Bateman from the UK. Thank you so much, Trudy, for joining us. It's about 11 o'clock at night there, so I appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Not at all. Thanks for having me here, Jamie.
Very, very welcome. Trudy, you are a Director of Strength Profile at Cappfinity, which is the leading organization around the world in an amazing strength profile assessment that we're both coaches in. I just wanted to get stuck straight into how you ended up in that role and what led you down that path, because it's pretty phenomenal. I'm a big fan of strength profile.
Oh, thanks, Jamie. So I've been in occupational psychology for about 20 years, but not positive psychology. So I knew our founding director. So they brought me across to do a completely different role for strengths profile. So I've been working at Cappfinity now for about 12 years.
Wow.
In the recruitment and development space, but I ended up in the strengths profile role about 10 years ago when it was obviously an unfortunate accident, but I do believe in destiny and fate and all those things, where a colleague had actually dropped a radiator on her foot one day, and I said, well, I can go off and deliver this workshop for you. And it was one of those moments, and you know strengths, Jamie, you volunteer for things and suddenly you don't know why you volunteered for something. And I'm like, but I don't know anything about strengths. But there I am saying, I'll deliver this workshop, I'll lead this big 3-day event, and that was kind of the turning point of, I have to do more of this. I love it. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to shine. And that was about 10 years ago, and obviously not looked back.
So that's what led you into writing the strength profile book?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
It was just, I fell in love at that moment and I knew that I had to bring to the world what I felt I didn't get a chance to experience in my career up until that point.
What drew you to strengths, do you think? Like you said, you knew nothing about strength, but there you are going, pick me, pick me.
Yeah. Absolutely. So positive psychology I knew about, and very much, understood and knew that space, but the strengths piece was fairly new to me at that time, as it probably was to many people that sort of 12 years ago or so. But I'd always felt, and I think this can often be a case for people of my generation, mid-40s now, where I'd always been successful, but never really happy. There was something missing in my life, and I couldn't ever really describe it. And I think when people used to sort of say, you appear successful, and I'd be thinking, well, but sometimes I feel like I'm living somebody else's life. There was just something I couldn't quite explain around what was going on. It was just a bit of emptiness, almost something that wasn't fulfilling. And then strengths came along, and there was the answer. And I think I needed to bring this to the world.
And how long did it actually take you to write the book? And like, obviously you didn't just jump straight into writing a book for this. Can you sort of lead us down that journey a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when I took the tool on, I joined Cappfinity the week Strengths Profile was launched.
Oh, wow.
It was called Realise 2 then, all those years ago. So that's just over 12 years ago. And it was just one profile and obviously one assessment at that point. So over the journey of the sort of next 5 years or so, we grew the assessment into lots of different products and offerings. But the book for me was very much about, so my CEO, Alex Linley, who's an absolute guru in positive psychology, I'm sure many of you know, he's our academic. But my world and partnering with him on Strengths Profile was, how do I make it applicable? How do I make everybody just be touched by strengths and to be able to do something with it, rather than it be words on a bit of paper or something that you're told to do? So the book for me was very much about practical advice for real people in the real world, having challenges, living life up and down, and being able to apply strengths. So that's where sort of the passion for the book came. And for those of you that have ever written a book, you have to have passion, because it's not the easiest. So for me, it became completely about, how do you help real people apply strengths?
So just for the audience, because I know for me, you can share if you've had the same experience, sometimes the word strengths is misunderstood and viewed as more like a physical attribute. So I just wanted to, if you would like to clarify this so the audience can, the tool in and out. Obviously, I'm trained in it as well, but you're much more of an expert. So would you like to just care to sort of describe, so people can understand fully without any misunderstandings, what we mean by when we're talking about strengths?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great, so we dived straight in. Strength is something that you perform well at. So you do need to have performance in this strength, but it never stops there. So the next piece is a strength you must also love. You must also bring energy into it when you do it. And Jamie, that's the bit that is the key. That's the magic. Where there's energy, where there's passion, where there's commitment, where there's love, all those things, that's where the real strength lies. So you're good at it. You love doing it. And then, of course, our final piece is about use, but you're also using it, because, of course, if you're not using it, we call that then an unrealized strength, in that something that perhaps is your hidden potential. So something that you're good at, something you've got energy in, or you love doing, and something you do often. So those three characteristics make up a strength.
And for the audience who might be wondering, like, how on earth do you go about measuring that in something tangible? Would you like to just touch on a little bit on the actual assessment, and how that came to be? You touched on that it started off just a single assessment and it's grown quite a lot.
Yeah, so the Realise 2, as it was in the time, Strengths Profile now was Cappfinity's founding tool. And we built this because we very much were working as consultants in the positive psychology space. And we used to, believe it or not, we would run what we call a strengths-based interview to find out your strengths. So the only way, Jamie, of knowing your strengths, we'd sit down for an hour. I would type up a report about everything I'd heard about you, and I would present you with this amazing sort of like, here's your strengths profile. We then decided there must be a better way. So we put this assessment together, and for us it needed to be holistic. So it needed to be, yes, your strengths, but we lived in the real world, and we knew there was other magic in this tool that we could produce that looked at things that you were good at, and that you perhaps didn't enjoy so much, things that people confused that were their strengths. And then we also looked at unrealized strengths as well. To look at weaknesses, and we've been challenged about that too, and I'm sure we'll come on to a bit of that in our conversation, because actually we're quite bold and we say we need to be able to understand weaknesses to be able to develop our strengths even further.
I agree, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Actually, when we come back from the break, we can get stuck into that, because I have had interviews with people where we've mentioned strength profile and we've got into a discussion about it. And some people do get a little bit like put off by that word weakness, especially when we're coming from, the realm of positive psychology. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. We will cut to the break. And then when we come back, we'll discuss that in more detail. Stay tuned, guys.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. We discover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Jamie Rose, and you are tuned in to Bold Brave TV. I have the fabulous Trudy Bateman here with me. She's the Director of Strength Profile at Cappfinity, and she is the author of the Strength Profile book. Thank you so much for joining me again, Trudy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. So just before the break, we had started to delve into the different nitty-gritty bits of the strength profile assessment. You mentioned we have learned behavior, we have our known and our realized strengths, and we have our unrealized strengths. And then we have the fourth category, which is weaknesses. Now, we just had a brief mention before the break on how that can sort of mystify some people, especially those who might be familiar, with the positive psychology industry. Can you touch on or shed some light on, why did you guys choose to stick with the terminology weaknesses, and what does that fundamentally mean for you guys at Cappfinity that maybe some people misunderstand or look at it sort of slightly differently to the perception and the goal for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jamie, you've been working in positive psychology a long time, but people are still drawn to their weaknesses, aren't they? When I run workshops, then, I say to people, give me a strength story. And they say, oh, look at my weaknesses. And I have to say, no, I asked for a strength story. So as human beings, that we're naturally drawn to that space. And we felt if you don't address it, talk about it, maybe see what's holding you back, you won't actually get to develop your strengths and be the person that you were meant to be. Because we're too busy hiding weaknesses, suffering maybe around our weaknesses, compensating in a way that's not right, or pretending they don't exist, burying your head in the sand. And actually, we've all got them. So we want to kind of say, just stand up straight. This is my weakness. Who else can help me? So I think, as part of being human, it's about acknowledging what we're not so good at and saying, but how do my strengths help me to compensate? So we knew it was a barrier to strengths development, not knowing what you're good at, or not knowing those weaknesses was going to hold you back. Because certainly and also, strengths and positive psychology was seen at the time we are talking sort of 12 years ago now, where it's potentially, a bit fluffy. Also wanted to kind of really work practically. We were consultants, and actually we know that the 4 areas that we cover, the holistic model helps to develop those strengths even further. I do coaching, and sure you've got the cards as well, where people just turn over a weakness and say, well, now I've addressed it, I can move on, and it's that moment you want people to move on from their weaknesses, but talk about it. They're there.
I mean, I completely agree. I know that some people, they would still disagree, and they might prefer some kind of a more fluffier term like areas of development or something like that. But I do agree, because, I mean, we know, being within the positive psychology world, that it's not all about flowers and fluffiness and roses. Real happiness is actually facing the troubles and the tributes and pushing through the trials and coming out the end. So ultimately, you can be doing yourself a disservice by fluffing it up and going, areas of development. Yes, that is true, but for some people, they don't want to develop it. So it is it's an area of weakness that they really don't care about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we don't like to talk about weaknesses as areas of development. There are areas you use less, you delegate, you move on from, you address to a point that you have to. No one's going to make you a presenter if you've got spotlight as a weakness. It's just not going to happen. You won't enjoy it. So it's really about sort of, finding the strengths that will compensate for your weaknesses and then developing your strengths. You take a strength from a 7 to a 10. Imagine the magic. Take a weakness from, say, a -2 to a 0. Where are you going to get in life?
Yeah, exactly. It's about learning, what areas are worthwhile to develop as well, and to begin with. If you don't enjoy it, it's not leaving you feeling good, and you don't need to learn it, well, then what's the point, of torturing yourself, really?
Anything else other than the weakness, the danger is you might try and develop it, a lesser strength or areas for development, but don't. It's a weakness. And do you know what? If we talk about our weaknesses, people like you and I, we can complement each other, and you get to work and support me, and I get to work and support you, and actually you get to work on what you want, and vice versa. So it makes room for other people's strengths to grow too. When you talk about weaknesses in teams, I do a lot of team development, and it's great, to be able to share, and be really open and help diversity in teams.
Exactly. I mean, imagine the sense of culture within a group where you can openly put your hand up without any shame, without any need for trying to hide it or sugarcoat it, and just go, yeah, guys, here's my list of weaknesses, but here's my list of strengths. So let me see yours, and let's make it work as a team, rather than trying to cover up or rephrase it in a more positive manner, which is what a lot of, in the interviews they ask that. It's, what are your areas of development, and then you have to scramble to come up with some make-believe thing to impress them about something that I've identified as a weakness, and here I need to develop it. I have self-awareness higher me now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always tell the leaders to go first, Jamie, as well, because I think they role model it. If a leader can stand up at the beginning of the workshop and say, here are my weaknesses, let's just share, then it creates that culture for the people to be able to almost celebrate those weaknesses. And then once you know what your weaknesses are, you open up a world of the openness to other people, and, so you might find somebody who you haven't been getting on with that well has actually the opposite to you, that they've got a strength in your weakness, and suddenly you realize how much you need them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's actually really, really fascinating. I've had immense growth from the 4 strength profile assessments that I've done. I couldn't tell you. We have a break coming up again, so I don't want to go too much into it, because I know that we'll get cut off. But when we come back, we'll dive even deeper. If it's okay with you, I'd like to go into the development of the book a little bit, and we can touch on the other areas of the assessment in general.
Great.
Okay, great. We'll be back in a moment, guys. Stay tuned.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. You know, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to the Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Jamie Rose, and this is Bold Brave TV. I have the amazing Trudy Bateman here with me. She is the author of the Strengths Profile book. Now, before the break, we were getting involved in the different elements of the Strengths Profile tool, trying to dissect it for the audience so that they can understand it, because it can be quite a complex assessment tool to understand, to fully grasp. Now, before the break, I mentioned that I would like to talk about the book, but while we're on the break, Trudy was suggesting that we actually talk about the careers guide element to that. So they've branched out into schools and universities and looking at how strengths can help us in our career development. Trudy, I think that's really important to go into. So before we run out of time, which always happens, I think that's a good idea that we get into that first. We can go back to the book a little bit later if it's relevant.
Great. Thanks, Jamie.
No problem.
You know, when I think about your career development, my career conversations at school, it was dreadful, wasn't it? You know, I was going to be a nurse. It was just
very generic.
Exactly that. And there was no, you know, really, because I think I answered a question that said I would help someone across the street. That was me done. And therefore I drifted in and out of careers, not really knowing where this sort of unrewarding piece, this unfulfilled bit came from. So we were starting to get into the university space, and Strengths Profile has always been popular, but we're starting to use it a lot more in the university, or sort of 16 plus, we say, in terms of its reach. So back in just before COVID, we developed what we call the career guide. So this matches your strengths to potential sectors. And the conversations that I have every day with either students or the educators who are working with the students, it's transformational, because they've been able to match those strengths and say, well, and these are sorts of things that not only are you going to be good at, but you're going to love doing it. And the way that it can be used, and you could combine sectors. So I don't know about you, Jamie, but I wear many hats in my role.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm the CEO, I'm the HR director some days. You're the manager, you're the consultant, the coach, the teacher.
Exactly.
And it helps people to see which hat they prefer, which ones they're going to be most successful at. And for young people, it's really hard, isn't it? You know, you start off with a blank sheet of paper, you don't know what you're good at, and you don't know what you want to do. So we help with the strengths piece to talk about their own language, to describe themselves, and then we help them think about, and these are the sorts of things that really match your strengths going forward, to give them their vocabulary and confidence to talk to future employers.
Oh, I'm so glad that you just used that word, because that was going to be my next question. How do you find that this is helping their confidence, their self-confidence? I would imagine, like, I immediately started thinking about doing a study and correlating strengths with confidence in teenagers.
Yeah. So absolutely. I mean, self-belief is the third most common weakness. It's, and every time I see that, I want to I want to run out there and give everybody a strengths profile. Strengths help people naturally be more confident. Suddenly you know what your strengths are. Even just saying that, I sat up straight because I'm suddenly know what I'm good at. I'm going to use it more. I'm going to get recognized. I'm going to be rewarded. my performance will increase. I'm going to feel more energized. And therefore, I'm going to do a really good job. And here we go round again, and I'm going to get rewarded and recognized. So this whole using your strengths can really boost confidence, well-being, resilience, and all those great things. So when we sort of start to think about young people, you give them a blank sheet of paper and say, put your application in for university. What are you good at? It's just really, I'm good with people. But actually we've got, 11 relating strengths. How are you good with people? Do you like talking to them, connecting, building relationships? Do you like listening? Do you like making them laugh? Do you like, how do you build those relationships? What's important to you? So we get to the real sort of granularity of what really makes them tick in the profile, so that they can use the language, the stuff in the book, the stuff in the profiles. It's really practical to describe themselves. And the light bulbs go off, the things that unfortunately our parents sometimes, with all good intentions, I have them too, teachers, they shoehorn you into things you're good at. No one says, but look at their energy. Nobody says that at school, and nobody says it at home either. So it's really helpful to get the young people thinking about what they're really passionate about.
I agree. I think if you ask most people what their strengths are, they'll start telling you their skills rather than their strengths, because of that missing factor of how it makes them feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at a university this week in the UK, and they were running, we were actually running a lecture, a workshop for young people. And it was just amazing to see them take it, do something with it. And you could just see the light bulbs going off in the room, in terms of just shaping the way that they were thinking about themselves. So actually this is a strength and I can really do this. They're connecting the dots. You could see it, Jamie. That makes sense now. Just giving them a word on a bit of paper. They could connect the dots about success up until now. And of course, therefore giving them the narrative at some point in their future to be able to sell themselves at an interview.
Have you found that the learned behavior element with the teenagers has been a challenge? We might have to give a little bit of more insight on that and discuss that for the audience to understand what I mean in terms of that as well, though.
So learned behavior is something that you're really good at, but you don't really enjoy. Imagine that. What a category. So it throws everybody, not just young people.
Yeah, exactly.
So in my team workshops all the time, but I'm really good at that. And you sort of see their face, I'm really good at that. And
I hate it, but I'm good at it. Make me do it more. I want to be miserable longer.
Let go of it. The problem is I don't want to let go of it because I'm really good at it and people recognize me for it, maybe reward me for it. So it's an area that we're good at, but we don't really enjoy. And again, for young people, they get trapped in this area. But again, that's not the case for just young people. It's everybody, leaders particularly, because you do the job underneath you, you do your own job, you're trying to do the job for your next promotion, and you're doing it all. You're not really doing your strengths work, though. You're doing it all. So that sense of just, performance without energy is a learned behavior, and that drains us. That can really kind of cause our well-being to be really knocked off course because we're continually doing things that drain us that we're good at. So it's a really tricky category, but once you get it, and it's, and once you go around the room in a workshop, yep, they've got it. You can really tell, and that is the transformation, because suddenly we realize what our strengths really are rather than things that actually we thought were our strengths.
It was that part of the assessment, the first time that I did it, was mind-blowing for me, because I realized that basically all of the things that I had learnt to be good at, I hated, and I was only doing them to please everybody else. And it was the first time I had that realization. And I was like, why am I living my life for everybody else and not myself? And it was just amazing to me that I was 29 and that was the first time I'd actually had that thought. So it can help in so many ways. We do have another break to cut to, but when we get back, we'll keep going, diving deeper and deeper into the strengths profile assessment tool. Thank you again for taking the time to share this with everybody, because it really is important. So we'll be back in a moment, guys.
The opiate epidemic has reached crisis levels, and with so many families affected by addiction, opiate-related drug overdoses, and death, the time is now to have a real constructive conversation about addiction that could lead to better prevention, treatment, and recovery. Alan Charles, author and keynote speaker on drug abuse and prevention, presents The Alan Charles Show. Alan brings a message of hope, sharing his unbelievable story of surviving a 24-year addiction to cocaine, and highlights from his memoir, Walking Out the Other Side, an addict's journey from loneliness to life. His raw honesty and courageous heart breaks the stigma of addiction and offers a unique perspective into the mind of an addict. Join Alan each week as he brings his listeners to a true understanding of the grip of addiction. It is only with this understanding that we can begin to heal. The Alan Charles Show, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network. Have you ever felt like no one is listening, or you're not getting the honest attention you deserve? Do you even know the kind of attention you want or need? You are not alone. Alice Aspen March is here to help. Thanks to Alice, through her epiphany and research over the word attention, there are solutions to the attention dilemma. Worldwide audiences have been enthralled and engaged for over 40 years with her visionary and pioneering observations. The kind of attention we get and give is vital to improving our lives and society. Alice and her weekly guests review game-changing insights for transforming and improving our understanding of attention, providing techniques for creating healthier and empowering behavior. Get a new perspective on a mainstream word. Tune into Why Our Attention Matters for fresh and thought-provoking conversations every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on boldbravemedia.com and the TuneIn Radio app.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Jamie Rose, and this is Bold Brave TV. I have the amazing Trudy Bateman here from Cappfinity with me today. Cappfinity is the world leading strengths profile assessment tool creator. Thank you, Trudy, once again. You are the director of Strengths Profile at Cappfinity, and you've written an amazing book on Strengths Profile, and we've just been digging deeper and deeper into Strengths Profile and how it can help revolutionize people in their life, their careers, and we wanted to sort of draw it into a more focusing on the career part of it. So how have you found that it's helping people to get better jobs, to change career paths, to understand what careers they're suited for more, all of those sorts of things?
Yeah. I think I love the term, someone sort of said it to me a year ago, and it just really stuck with me. We help people have a much more conscious career. So it's about that sense of once you know yourself, you can really start to direct that career. And particularly women, we do tend to fall into careers, not choose them. You know, we work really hard, you know, potentially trying to get recognized, but often not in the right spaces. So it's really about conscious careers, making those choices, you know, really helping people to see, actually, what am I like at my best, and how do I apply that in my roles? And the profile and the book are really practical. We've got things like your potential, you know, giving you really specific advice how to develop that hidden potential in your unrealized strengths. So it really helps you take that profile suddenly into, actually, this is what I'm like at my best, and these are the bits of my career I do love, these are the bits I don't love, these are the bits I can change. You know, to take a learned behavior into strength, you've just got to release the energy in it, or match or find a strength to work with that releases the energy in it. So there's ways forward in all the results. It's a development tool that takes you into the role, you know, and if it's not right for you, then, you know, we can encourage you to actually think about what life could look like in a different role.
And I think that's a key word you just said then, a development tool. It's ongoing development. It's not something that you just do once and you just toss away and you go, okay, I learned from that. This is something I've done it 4 times in like 5 years. You've coached over 10,000 people in this, so I'm sure you've probably done it many, many times yourself as well. So I just wanted to point that out because I think some people can often forget that development is ongoing, and this tool is designed to be an ongoing development tool.
And particularly because we measure performance, energy, and use. And if you think about your own life, even the last 18 months, have we had the same amount of energy in the same things? No. Do we use our strengths in the same amount every day, depending on life situation and how our context changes? No. But actually, what's great is if you have a profile that you want to change, then the power's in your hands to change it, because change the energy, change the use, change your goals, change your direction. Doesn't always mean change your career. It just means, change your confidence, be self-aware and start to make it a bit more conscious going forward.
And I love the fact that you said a conscious career, because I'm sure you found this as well. Most of us that are in the cycle world, I think we have found this, that people who aren't in our life and don't have a foundation of, the understanding of the brain and psychology and how things work, they don't intentionally do this, but they shoot themselves in the foot often because they think that they're being conscious. They don't actually understand the difference between what a real conscious decision is and an unconsciously motivated or powered action or behavior without, real thought. And so when we understand our strengths on a much deeper level, instead of, people can often palm off things and say, oh, well, I'm just no good at that, or that's not for me. But they haven't, that's on a very surface level and an unconscious framework. But if they went and did these types of tools, especially the strengths profile with the energy component, which no other tool to my knowledge has, that's when some really deep learnings, and you can kind of confront your own behavior then and stop sort of, sticking your head in the sand and looking for excuses when really it's just unconscious programming. Do you know what I'm saying? Is this something that you found working with people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for us, it's when you get the reaction in a profile, and it's usually just 1 or 2 things, and you'll have found this being a coach on it. That's not me. I don't like that. I was surprised at this. And it's those moments that you're smiling, what I'm going to say. It's those moments that that you're going to take somebody in a slightly more uncomfortable direction, but it will be the right journey, because they're going to go, but I am compassionate. It says it's a learned behavior for me. And you kind of go, okay, I'm good at listening. I've always been good at listening. And you kind of go, you are really good at listening, but maybe it's not a strength. So it's absolutely the deep consciousness of it, but then also the direction of where you want to take that actually I'm not perfect. Let's work together. And how do we kind of really help each other to grow in the areas where we can really make a difference. Now, if you want to make a difference in processes, brilliant, because not many people do, but we need everybody in this world, and our tool's got 60 strengths in it, so you do get a real sense of my uniqueness, my granularity, me, that feels, people say, how did you get it to look so much like me, and that's because we use 60 different strengths, so we really get to the heart of who you are to help you then, what we would say, put your strengths to work. And just finally on the other piece, around palming it off, you need to play to your strengths for success about 70% of the time. That does mean that in 30% we all need to live in the real world, just occasionally use those learned behaviors, maybe even compensate for a weakness, do our expenses, whatever it is that we don't enjoy, but we're aiming as a ballpark figure for about 70% of our day to be wrapped around our strengths.
Just touching on one thing, so I found that not all, but some of my learned behaviors, I was able to get them back into a realized strength by using them less. I realized that it was the fact that I was just like exhausted, I'm over listening, I'm over communicating, I'm over empathizing and draining myself and not putting enough in my own, bucket of love. So I just wanted to touch on that because, I don't want people to walk away thinking that they can't learn to enjoy something, and it doesn't mean that they're always going to not enjoy it.
When you see something you don't like in your profile, it means you can change it because you don't want it there. Then that's when we can achieve what we focus on. So once you realize that, and did you hear your language? That was like you were doing that too, in the sort of feeling, I overused it, and you pick up on that, and that's how you coach people towards success on those learned behaviors.
Yeah, exactly. We do have another break to cut to, so we'll be back in a moment, guys. Stay tuned.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
And we're live.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Jamie Rose, and this is Bold Brave TV. I have Trudy Bateman here with me. She lives in the UK. She is an author of the Strength Profile book, which we have been dissecting deeper and deeper today, haven't we, Trudy? We're really getting stuck into the core of how Strength Profile can revolutionize people's lives and careers.
I think we're coaching each other too as well, aren't we, Jamie?
We sort of are, yeah, but this is how it works, doesn't it? Collaboration and teamwork, and we can all learn different methods and ways of approaching the same thing in a different way.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to know, what for me, I shared this before. I did the Strengths Profile assessment myself many times before I decided to become accredited and a coach in it myself. Was it a similar story for you, or I know you joined, when they first released it, but did you have that opportunity to do it, and then you fell in love with it even more?
Yeah, I think for me, I just. I've always known that I wanted to make a difference, and when I touched this tool, and you could see the impact that you could have immediately in the moment with people, I needed to do it, and I needed to do it every day. And I would not, I would do it for free. The moment, somebody sent me a message on LinkedIn yesterday saying just doing the training program was the best thing she'd ever experienced in her life. I am so lucky that I get to touch people's lives every day, but it's not always been like that, Jamie. And for most people, it's not. I've always struggled with things like imposter syndrome, or, just working so hard and not really understanding how to make myself happy, or really appreciating my true self, or, trying to put my guard down and actually being me. I think, I spent years struggling with all that stuff. But when I knew what my strengths were, I was able to drop my guard, celebrate who I really, truly was. I probably had to go through the battle scars first, because otherwise you've got to be in the right place for that, for many people, don't you?
As we all do.
have to suddenly say, so when I first did it, it was, 12 years ago, and you would have heard a pin drop. The CEO stood behind me. What's her strengths? She's just joined us, where is she going to in this Cappfinity world? And my top strength was humor. I was really disappointed because I wanted strategic awareness, I wanted innovation. And it was like, oh God, I'm just funny.
You wanted something that you thought would impress them.
Exactly. So I was suffering at that point. And, and where would I be without my humor? It's my total resilience tool. I love it, but I had to go on a journey, and I've taken so many people on that journey, but I had to go through the journey myself of actually really going through that transformation. And now my top strength is legacy. And it's just, I get to impact people day in, day out. And, I wake up every day just loving what I do. Every day is different, but I'm so privileged, to be talking to people like you, working with people like I do, working with young people, working in charities. It's everybody needs to know their strengths.
Oh, look, I agree. This tool completely changed my life. I remember looking at the result for the unrealized strengths the first time, and it was either mission or purpose. I've gotten both of them in varying top qualities for unrealized, and when I sat down and I looked at, I mentioned before that I was doing all these things for my other people and following expectations, and was just miserable. And that was when I made the decision to come up with the Happiness Ninja. I think it didn't happen in the moment, but that's what really put that in my unconscious brain, I think, and made that start permeating. So I thought, well, okay, yeah, I know I'm miserable. Now I can see like some tangible, specific reasons why. I've finally identified like what is it that's making me so miserable. And now I've got like some tools on how I can change it, because I can see what I'm not utilizing and what would be a strength if I was actually doing something in that area. And it totally changed from there. Like I realized that having meaning and purpose and some kind of a goal and mission that is beyond myself is my greatest value in life, and I need it to be happy.
Once you've got that in your mindset, you can almost achieve anything, can't you, by aligning those strengths. And you've touched on a really good point I wanted to mention, is that your strengths, you won't have, and everybody has the light bulb moment at that moment. I've had phone calls where people have said, at the time, I know you talked 5 years ago, I didn't get it, but I get it now. So whenever I'm delivering a workshop and a client wants to say, I want you to transform the team in 2 hours, and I say, give a transformation speech, and they won't all be transformed in the moment, but it might be on the way home that day, it might be overnight, it might be over the weekend with a bottle of wine, it might be the next decade. But everybody, it's a journey. Strengths isn't a one-time moment. What we try to do, like you did with the learned behaviors and myself, is we help people discover their journey. Once you know that model, once you can say, I'm good at it, but I'm not enjoying it, that must be, you've got tools for life then, to be able to pick up on that yourself and pick up on other people. Do it with your kids, help them choose sort of careers, happiness, and the things that perhaps we didn't get quite so much of an opportunity to do when we were younger.
Oh, exactly. I mean, the more that technology grows and the faster pace that life gets, the more we need to have these other things in place to mitigate the extra stress and all the, intense pace of things, and multitasking and the juggling of everything. So it's more important now than ever before, if you ask me.
Yeah, we're all, especially post where we've been, it's very much around agility and resilience. And I think I was listening to somebody the other day that said, what would you teach? If you could teach young people one thing, it'd be resilience. And for me, strengths would be resilience. You could really kind of, if you're using your strengths, you're more confident, you're achieving, you've got more energy. We can achieve, we can overcome things when we come from a place of strength.
Exactly. And I'll just, before the break, I'll just touch on the fact that one of the other powerful ways to utilize this tool is to use something use a realized strength to take on and reframe the way that you approach a certain task that, is in your learned behavior or your weakness area. There's different ways you can reframe it and realign yourself just to sort of shift that energy level and boost it a little bit more, which I think is, a very, very fantastic element of the tool. We do have to cut to the break, so we'll be back in a moment, guys, for the last section, and we'll wrap up.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
And we're live.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Jamie Rose. This is Bold Brave TV. We've come to the very last segment of today. It always goes super, super fast. I still have Trudy Bateman with me here. She is in the UK, so it's nearly midnight for her. Trudy is a strengths profile coach herself and the author of Strengths Profile book and the director of Strengths Profile app, Cappfinity. Thanks again for staying up so late with me, Trudy. So to wrap up this section, did you want to tell us a little bit about, there's a brand new free assessment that people can do, isn't there?
There certainly is. So I'd just like to say it is midnight, but I've got more energy now than I did when I came on the call. So it just it's great, the energy we bring together. So yeah, so you can obviously, there is a paid assessment. There's 2 paid assessments, the introductory and expert profile that we've always had, but that we've just launched the last couple of months, the new free version, because we just wanted to, our purpose at Cappfinity is strengthening the world. So we make our tools pretty accessible, but this time it's even more accessible. So we've got a scaled down version of the tool. It's called the starter profile. And if you just go to strengthsprofile.com, you'll find it with a big button that says take the free assessment. Pretty easy to find. And you get your 3 realized, 3 unrealized, 2 learned behaviors and 1 weakness. So we give you a mini little assessment. It's been released about 7 weeks now, and it's I think about 8,000 people have taken it in those 7 weeks. And for us, it's all about everybody having access to know what their strengths are.
Even though it's only a miniaturized version of it, it is still very, very helpful. You gave me some access to those for doing something for you, and I shared them with a few people that I was working with, that I wanted to work with in a better capacity, and it really did increase our understanding of each other. I did one and I got 2 ladies to do it, And it was a massive help in just understanding the way we were approaching the different tasks. And it really helped us to communicate better and understand where each other was coming from, which I don't think that we would have been able to sort of get past a few of the little hurdles that we had it not been for that free miniature session.
Yeah, thanks, David. When we created it, when I put the algorithms together and we did it, I thought it's not going to give you as much. My own profile, the free version, I was like, oh my God, it's still me. It's still me.
Yeah.
And I could genuinely do something with it. And that's it, if budget's low, and also we want to have, we're thinking about 16-year-old students, people who don't have the budget, charities, just spread the word, because it's just worth those 15 minutes to have, just a couple of light bulb moments to have that conscious career, conscious life. We all deserve the life that we were born to have.
Yeah. And, it's sad that some people will undervalue something if it is free, but I can attest that it's an incredible tool, even the free part of it. Yeah, you don't get the career section of it. You don't get as comprehensive attributes and results, but it is still extremely worthwhile, and it can revolutionize your thinking and be that seed and that first step to changing your life as you know it. So thank you for, making that available to people. And I highly recommend and urge people to get onto that. Trudy, what website do you want to plug that?
Yeah, so that's www.strengthsprofile.com. And again, big blue button that says take the free assessment. You can pay for it if you want. We're not stopping you. We're just giving you the option to take the free one as well.
Exactly. The paid ones are very, very comprehensive and very worthwhile. But for those of you who with a budget, the free one is there. And that was Strength Profile with an S on the end. I just wanted to clarify that for people. Thank you for joining me, and for giving the energy so late. Really, really appreciate it. And yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to either of us and find out more, please do. And I highly recommend the book as well. Trudy, where can they get that if they're interested?
Where else? Amazon.
Of course. Excellent. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you again for joining. And we'll be back next week. Bye now.
This has been Happiness Ninja Down Under with your host, Jamie Rose. Tune in each week and join the conversation as Jamie highlights the true power of the human mind to create a thriving world. Right here on Jamie Rose's Happiness Ninja Down Under.
You've been listening to the BBM Global Network. The ideas, views, and opinions of this broadcast are those of the participants of the program and are not necessarily the ideas, views, and opinions of the BBM Global Network Company.